Awesome. Well, we're going to jump in because we have, Joy, you didn't know this, but you came on a great day. So for the last month and a half, our lovely newbies have been scripting out their 12-minute listing presentation while also comping out a listing. And today we're switching gears to actually start buyer presentations to the group. And Zach Kronsnibel over here, who's like big on my screen now, is our first one to present his buyer presentation to the group, utilizing the Moxie buyer presentation, and also, of course, leveraging a little bit of why Zach should get the business and not the 12 agents in line for it behind him.
Nice.
So we're gonna start with that, and then the second half, Curtis and I have decided, we know that the contract classes are phenomenal with Joy and David, and that our attorneys have been helping with this. But we wanted to run you guys through a drill of a very good example of Curtis and I are trying to buy X property, but we have to sell Y property in order to buy it. And you guys are going to help us fill out that contract, that offer for us. So let's go ahead and start with Zach. I clicked record already. So Zach, you are good to go. If everyone else could mute yourself, Zach is going to share his screen. Curtis and I like to keep running commentary in the chat. So Zach, don't have your chat up because otherwise you'll get like hella distracted. So, but we're going to keep our chat. You guys feel free as well to chat in the comments. Anytime you hear Zach do something really great that you're like, oh man, I got to remember that. You know, Curtis and I try to do that. And then at the end, we'll chat with Zach about it and get your guys' opinions, and then we'll do the second half. So Zach, I'll mute myself. You go for it.
Wait, so by the way, really quick, because I know I'm young. I'm not extremely tech savvy. So how do I mirror?
So you're going to share your screen. So in right next to the leave button, there is a box with an up arrow in it.
Box with an up arrow.
Are you on your phone or a laptop?
I'm on my laptop.
Okay, yeah. So if you look at Teams, up by the leave button, right next to it on the left-hand side is a box with a up arrow through it.
I don't... Open share tray?
Yeah, share content.
Oh, why don't they just call it share? Just simply...
I prefer to do desktop, just so you know, and then you just minimize Teams, because sometimes if you click like specific windows, it doesn't like follow you through. So desktop's the best option.
Gotcha. So I'll just do, like, right now, could you see exactly, like, if I were to go Chrome, do you see this?
Not yet. Are you sharing your screen?
I believe so, yeah. Wait, so if I go screen one, yeah, like right here.
Oh, yep. Now we're good. You're good to go.
Let me get rid of all this stuff. Sorry. Okay. It's a lot of clutter. This is how I work.
You have so many tabs open.
Okay. Here's the thing. I like to multitask, okay? It's a lot of stuff. I know. Okay? Don't grill me for this.
I'm not.
This is no indication of how I work. Okay?
I'm just teasing you. Listen, that's my job. So I'm going to mute myself. You good to go? You can talk to me or Curtis if it makes you feel better to like talk to somebody, but we're going to be muted, okay?
Okay, sounds good. And then as far as, should I do the full presentation mode versus this? Because for whatever reason, it was lagging earlier when I was going through it.
This is fine if you feel more, this is totally fine. That's how I usually do it. I promise I won't keep making fun of your tabs.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, you're good to go.
Okay, perfect. So obviously start off, why Coldwell Banker, not just me. So obviously more than 110 years of experience, right? We're doing the very best to stay up to date with the market and also knowing exactly what is going to hit the market, especially for buyers. So that means private listings, anything that's on the MLS, stuff that's even pre-market within the CB community and others. It's really just about knowing everyone in the business and knowing who to contact with reference to that. So that's part of CB. This is me. I look very chubby in that. That is no indication of how I actually look. But yeah, this is my main contact information. And as we go through, like right now it has my link for CB. I actually started my own website, so I'll be showing that later. I need to figure out how to add that into the bunch. This is a brief overview of, I guess, who I am and what I've done so far. So essentially just saying I'm from Chicago. I know the market. I'm just joined the Schrake Group. So we have a combined 30 years plus of experience in real estate. So that's big. I kind of did a little bit of showing off. I guess you kind of have to, right, to get people to trust you. So last month closed on a $1.89 million property. I'm also working with over 10 clients. It varies from tenants, first-time home buyers, larger investors who are looking for multifamilies throughout the city, so looking for returns. So I'm well versed on all those ends. So for representing a buyer, I think I'm more than qualified. Also, one of the main things too is the array of contacts that I have along with my group. So anywhere from obviously mortgage specialists, we have a great relationship with Guaranteed Rate in office. Also inspectors, attorneys. I mean, really A through Z, we have buyers covered no matter what comes up. So the fact that we have all those resources is a true luxury for a buyer client. So, all right, we got the pretty pictures, got to glam it up. Going through here. So getting started, we're really just establishing the framework. Our whole goal is to get you to the closing table, make the transaction as smooth as possible. It should be fun. It shouldn't be stressful. Knowing the market now, it is stressful, right? But our goal is to literally minimize as much of that stress as possible by doing our job and to the best of our capabilities. So going through really quick, I mean, this is all going to be stuff summarized. Kind of can just go right through this, but really just establishing what we're going to be discussing throughout this packet. Another beautiful picture. Okay, so this is really the general framework that we need to address, especially for first-time home buyers, which I'm kind of treating this as that, just based on some of the clients that I'm working with. So number one thing, right, we need the mortgage, we need pre-qualification, we need pre-approval, and I go further into Guaranteed Rate afterwards. And then really establishing what their timelines are, what their needs are, exactly what we're dealing with in terms of budget after getting that pre-approval, and really establishing the framework in terms of what properties we should be looking at, and really giving our clients a realistic outlook on what to expect. I.e., if someone has, you know, let's say $300,000, wants a 3-bed, 2-bath home in the city. That's not going to happen. So, right, it's all about expectations right from the get-go. We have to establish that and really lead them in the right direction to get them something that is realistic given the general framework for this. So really, I mean, for anyone who's dealt with, you know, buyers before, this is pretty self-explanatory, right? Contingencies, I myself, I didn't add it in because there's so many riders. I love attaching riders. I think it's the best way to show your clients that you're going above and beyond and making sure they have all their bases cleared. So we don't go into something and really not having a safety exit. So that's kind of like my general insurance policy. So I'd love to attach as many applicable riders as possible, which can all be found in .loop. So again, this is basically establishing what I'm going to do as your buyer broker. So really, it's helping you get to the closing table, everything in between, making sure that we have all the showings scheduled for you to make life easier. We're going to make sure we do all the CMAs, making sure you have exactly the type of knowledge you need to make a well thought out offer when that time comes. Really understanding the closing costs associated with it, especially for first-time home buyers. They really don't know exactly what they're getting into sometimes, and they think, okay, whatever the purchase price is, whatever I offer, it's pretty much done at that number. Well, there's a ton of additional costs, and we go over that afterwards. And I also added to, which you'll be very proud of, Rachel, I added the FSBO agreement. So that's in here, okay? Don't get too excited. That comes later, okay? Save the best for last. But really, even here with the home inspection process, we have all the context necessary for someone. So they're covered. Another photo, power pre-approval. So I included Guaranteed right here. This is in office. I know the leader of my group likes to work a lot with Kirk. Personally, a bunch of the clients I'm currently representing, they already actually found their lenders beforehand. So I didn't really have to sell them on guaranteed rate, including like I have clients who have VA loans. I have clients who need specific other resources in order to help them secure their first home. But right here, also, did a little pitch for guaranteed rate, hoping I get my bottle of wine at the end of the deal, right? So I'm giving them a big shout out. Why pre-approval matters. So biggest thing too is getting that pre-approval. I always make sure I have that stuff done in advance of actually seeing places. I don't care how much someone likes it, because the worst thing you want to do is end up submitting an offer. It turns out they're not approved for as much. And by having those paperworks attached to the seller's broker knows that you've come to play ball and that you're serious and that you did all your prep work necessary. So really getting all that information, having that all accessible when you're putting in an offer is crucial. You want to expedite the process as fast as possible. And knowing me and the way I work, I always love to be aggressive with offers. So I always put like a 24-hour contingency. So if I don't have this documentation, I really lose all my leverage. And if there are other offers out there, then obviously mine's immediately going to start falling to the bottom of the pile. Pre-approval process again. This is really just establishing the framework of what you need in advance. So keeping track of your pay stubs, you need the W-2s, 1099s. You have to have that stuff. It is crucial. I also always ask for clients to develop a folder on their desktop prior, just so they can keep all this stuff in one place. So it just makes life a lot easier for everyone involved. But this is mainly something that's going to be dealt with on behalf of the lender. But I will be in communication with them. And again, that is the reason why our relationship with Guaranteed Rate is so good, because lines of communication we know are always available. And because we have that relationship already, people already know each other. We know the way each other works. So it is really easy to get in contact. So here, I couldn't add it. This is the general website that we are given for CB InTouch. I, however, have my own website that I developed with HomeSnap. So what I'm supposed to do is direct people here afterwards. It's my mistake. I was trying to figure out a savvy way of including that in, but I'm still not well versed in this. So kind of just general overview. It really helps the process for me being able to go through these tabs. It's kind of like running ad campaigns through HomeSnap, and just be able to have people answer these questions, so you know that people are motivated. And this is like the general tab that you can use if you're really looking to get something done soon. And then through here, you can search, you can look at properties on the MLS, so it's all under one domain. So listing side, seller side, these are deals that I've worked on. Let me get out of here now. Okay, so it's just way better for me to use than this website. So I encourage anyone, unless Rachel says otherwise, but I personally like that HomeSnap website. I just think it's very clean, it's crisp, and we pretty much have access to everything through there. So I won't fight against the CB grain with the website, but that's just my personal take. I kind of addressed this earlier too, so this is really talking about like a lot of the in-house stuff, so stuff that hasn't hit the market yet. I can't tell you how many times I've showed this to other clients, stuff that hasn't even hit the market yet, and they appreciate it so much knowing that they could be the first ones in the door, which is crucial, especially if they fall in love with a place. It just gives you that much more leverage knowing you can get in there and come forward with an offer before anyone else. So that's really our job, is just to stay in tune with the network and making sure we have access to everything possible. Going through another cute photo there. Okay, this is one of the most crucial things. I honestly feel like I should be putting this kind of towards the front. And I think this is the greatest thing known to man. Okay, so everyone always comes up with, just the things off the top of their head. What do they value most in purchasing a home? And we're in a city, and realistically, for people who want a backyard for a certain price, it just really isn't possible. So by going here and seeing really all your options in terms of valuing them and levels of importance from 1 to 5, I think is so important, because right off the top of the head, you're not going to have a clear path of everything that you're really taking into account. So by going here, this is providing you with all the information you need to help conduct your search. So if you have no idea what they want beforehand, this is the number one thing I would give. I think it's so convenient. And I gave the example earlier, I actually recorded this just as an audio version earlier for Rachel. But one of the things I discussed in there was, if someone has a budget that is super flexible, that pretty much encompasses anything in the city, and doesn't really have a preference within an exact neighborhood, even if you do have a preference within an exact neighborhood, you could be looking at like 75 listings within that space. So by using that sheet right there, you really save yourself a ton of time trying to find that needle in a haystack where you can just fine tune it. So making an offer, the whole process of going through this, it's crucial to let them know right off the bat. So it really is factoring, right off the start, how long has this home been on the market? It's all factoring in terms of what price you come up with in your head, along with the CMA, right? How much leverage do you have over the person selling the home? Are they very motivated? You have to contact that agent, get as much information as possible that they're allowed to, tell you from their seller. But just really understanding exactly what you're working with and how to get the deal done for your client. So one of the best things I like to do is really understand the situation as best as possible with the person working on the other end. So understanding whether or not the seller is extremely motivated, whether or not they have multiple offers. Again, this is just stuff you asked. A lot of people will throw BS at you. I've been in multiple places where they're like, yeah, we already have offers in. I see the place on the market 3 months later and it's gone down by 5%. So take it with a grain of salt for what it is. So that's essentially what's listed here. Financing also big too. That really did, and I can tell you right away off the bat dealing with this, even with like a VA loan too, depending on certain condos, the HOA sometimes will have certain rules with the leasing structure for some of these units, and some of those don't coincide with the VA guidelines, depending on certain ratios. So it's very crucial to understand that sort of stuff right from the get-go. And that's something the lender will definitely be able to inform you. I mean, we're not expected to know every single nuance. Oh, here we go. The best form known to mankind, okay? FSBO, we discussed this last week. This whole sign part, I was trying to be funny. No one needs to sign that. It's really just for the seller. But really understanding that if I'm going to be working for you and representing you, there has to be some sort of compensation for me. So by doing so, this is something I will present to the seller in the event that you do want to pursue a for sale by a homeowner. So this is what I'll give. You don't have to pay me anything out of pocket. This is something that will be solely from the seller as everything we do together throughout this relationship. Closing on your home. Home inspection, crucial. They have it listed as 10 days. There's no set time. I always tell people this if I'm showing like this page. There's never a set time. Everything's always negotiable. If you're trying to, ramp up a closing, which would really only be if you're doing all cash, you could do an inspection in less than 3 days if you wanted to. I mean, it also depends too. Are you dealing with a multifamily property? Are there a ton of units? Are they able to get everything done within 1 day? How many pages is going to be documented for the report findings? So you might need more time, you might need less, but 10 days is kind of what they're giving you as a general framework. Title search, again, very important. That's something that the title company will do for you. Appraisal, extremely important with the loans. Lender will really explain to you the importance of this too, but you kind of get the gist of it. It's really just finding out exactly whether or not you are overpaying the hell out of a home. So if I'm offering $450,000 on a home that's worth $300,000, chances are the lender won't be too proud. So it's really important to make sure everything kind of coincides and makes sense. Final walkthrough, really just you getting the keys and making sure that the place is in move-in condition, right? You don't want to make an offer on a place, you expect it to be turnkey, and then you get there and it turns out there are leaks that are showing from the ceiling. So that is a no-no. So this is kind of your last insurance policy before everything gets closed at the closing table. Closing costs, very important. Like I mentioned earlier, when some first-time home buyers don't know exactly what they're getting into. So these are all susceptible to change and will vary based on places, right? I mean, you can pay, I've seen people pay as much as $1,400 for an inspector. I've seen it as little as like $400 or $350. So that all varies. That is smaller incrementally in the grand scheme of things, as an example. But even like attorney fees, very much the same way. And these are all stuff that you can negotiate too. And a lot of people shouldn't just walk into this thinking, okay, this is exactly what the buyer's gonna have to pay, when you can actually negotiate that with the seller. So that's very important to keep in mind. Full service support, I'm reachable all the time. We have a great form of transaction management, and we can just keep you in the loop throughout the entire process. And I will be there for you day or night to respond to any calls and questions you might have regarding the status of this process for you. So once we go into contract, you'll be notified right away. We'll make sure that we abide by all the timelines that are given, and making sure I'm working alongside the lender to ensure a smooth closing and to avoid any delays whatsoever that can jeopardize a deal. Okay, right here, I kind of did this as like a reference point. This was actually sent out to, it was sent out. I need to fine tune some stuff. It isn't perfect. Like right here, it has 2 of the properties, but this is a property that my group is currently working on. If you guys have any buyers for it, 1012 West Lake Street, awesome place. But I met a gentleman at an open house who was really into it, is looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath. So I just pulled up one comp. There's not a whole lot of comps in this area, and he's so adamant about being right next to the Green Line stop, the Morgan station. So very tough to come up with comps, and I like to do all my comps personally via HomeSnap. I find it to be much easier than what was given to me on this Moxie. So not calling out Moxie for it, but I just think HomeSnap is a great way to do it. You can include all the property overview here, just so people get a general idea. So all the specifics, comp here. Obviously, you have to support more. You have to provide more comps than this, and that's why I do everything through HomeSnap. So please disregard that. Glossary. This is literally the Bible for a home buyer or seller, for that matter. Just being able to use this as a point of reference anytime. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten calls when this is really just at their fingertips, and it's the best thing for them to go through. If they want to elaborate on something else afterwards, that's awesome. But if you don't read this first, you're really doing yourself a disservice. So any one of these terms that we discussed earlier, those in the fine print, you can find it right here, including additional things like the added balloon payment. That's something that you'll have to discuss with the lender, depending on how you would like to go about the payoff of your loan. Again, a little more. This is the last page of the glossary. I lied. And yeah, let's get ready to rock and roll. And if you don't go with me, then I don't know what you're doing. I mean, there's a bunch of great people, at least in the Shrake team. I don't know about anyone else, but I can tell you we will do our very best to get you to the closing table, and that is the only thing that matters. So with that, I have the contract, and in person, right? I don't have the digital one to show, but just imagine me handing you over a beautiful, neat contract, sign right here, beautiful. And I would ask too for dual agency, because I would love double commission. Oh, and that's one thing I actually forgot to mention now that I think about it, is making sure they're aware of dual agency and the implications that can pose representing a buyer, because obviously then you can only really do the CMAs and actually help them fill out the paperwork. But in terms of the number that they come up with, you really don't have an influence. So that is something I forgot to add, and that I will definitely have to for future reference. I'm glad I caught that. So with that, thank you guys for your time. Give me as much criticism as humanly possible. I'm dying to know.
Great job,
so
Zach.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay, very good.
I
Very
keep
good.
talking to
I'm
myself.
gonna start at the top down with some comments for you. So from like earliest on in your presentation on down. So loved the way that you highlighted your experience and how that's your experience being newer, but also how you're represented with a team and their experience. So for all of you guys who are newer, who are like, well, I don't have a team or I don't have stats, use Coldwell Banker stats, use the office stats. And the other really good thing, and you didn't really have to mention this, Zach, because you have had a few deals, but remember too that if someone's really hung up on you being new, just remind them that you get 100% of my time. That is a bonus of working with a newer agent. And I give 100% of my time to my managing brokers and to training. So I do have a lot of ways to make sure that I'm operating at the best for you. I love that you said I have an array of contacts. So highlighting very early on the resources that you have and you're going to surround your buyer with is key. So Zach did a really great job talking about the lenders, the attorneys, the inspectors, like, the electricians, basically the I gotta guys. And Zach is going to make sure that all of his buyer clients are surrounded and have access to all those resources. So that was a really powerful thing. Um, I like how you had the framework slide. So that's one of the built-in Moxie slides, and 100% of the time that should be in all of your buyer presentations, because buyers are mostly focused on, I'm trying to find the pretty thing I like and then get me the best price. And they don't really realize all of the other steps. Okay. But if the first time they're hearing about earnest money or an inspection or an appraisal is as it's happening, that causes them a lot of undue stress. Right. And like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm the kind of person that I have to know every piece of the puzzle, even if I don't touch the other puzzle pieces, even if I don't have to work them, I need to know all of that. Most people are like that, especially when it comes to their money, right? Especially if they're buying a $500,000 condo, like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to pay $400 for an inspection. When were you going to tell me that? Today, now that I had to pay it? Okay, thank you. So I thought you did a great job with that, Zach. I also thought you did a really good job of making sure that your clients know that you have their back. That you are really like there as their advocate and what your job is in all this, right? Let's not forget that sometimes public opinion of realtors is that we're door openers, because I'm the buyer. I can Zillow what this is worth. I can source my own people. Like, buyers, consumers have that. Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, I was just gonna say, because I should have, and I actually wrote this down after the presentation last week, which I thought was great for getting a seller to work with you. But these home estimates, I even pulled some examples because I was actually supposed to list a home this past summer, and the owner had a change of heart, ended up moving back to the city to redo it. It was really just a pied-à-terre, just sitting there. He's like, okay, I'm just going to remodel it. But he looked at the estimate of his home, and it was like 550. And literally, I'm like, there's no way in hell. Like, that would be the biggest steal known to mankind. I'm like, I would feel comfortable around 850. And turns out a month later, one of the homes next door pops on the market, identical, actually sold for 865. So it just goes to show that you can't rely on all this information from people in Silicon Valley who've never stepped foot in Chicago to tell us what the market value of a property is. They have no idea. It's all an algorithm, and it takes the most unrelevant data. And it doesn't even factor into off-market stuff, which I think is important to highlight, because not all transactions are just on the public domain for the MLS. A lot of stuff happens behind closed doors, and it's our job to know about these and how it impacts the price.
And also, comps are a large part, but also so is the market, right? Like right now, today, we're in a really tumultuous market where like you can go in some neighborhoods and things are coming on at 75,000 over what they were bought a year ago, but they're selling. But the comps don't support it, but they're selling, and appraisals are coming back because the market is there, right? The market interest is there. So that's a good point. But this is the way that you set yourselves up when you're talking sellers and buyers, right? You're explaining to the buyer what the importance is of having a realtor that is an advocate for you, is committed to you, because this helps set the stage when Zach goes and asks them at the end to sign an exclusive buyer rep. If you all just ask to have a buyer rep signed without explaining the value of working with me, one realtor, not jumping around, it's going to make a buyer hesitate and pull back and be like, well, should I work exclusively with you? Everything Zach did from the start to the finish was explain the value. Same thing when talking with the seller, except you're explaining your 6 or 7%, right? So keep that in mind. It's really important to know. I loved that custom page for your lender. I think all of you guys need to literally steal that. And you notice how he did it. I thought that was great. So you had your preferred person, the largest, with a little bit of bio, but you did also offer 2 other options. So that way the consumer does know that you can call those 3 people. I recommend them. I work well with them, but I understand personalities. I understand that you might feel more comfortable. It's your money talking to a few different people. That is really, really huge. I thought it was really interesting how you talked about you put an expiration date in your offers.
That is non-negotiable for me, and I do that for all my clients, obviously with their permission. I've done it before where we didn't leave one. But for me, especially the way the market's been, I don't want to waste my clients' time. And if they don't feel comfortable going up above a certain number, I will make sure I'm aggressive. I can at least get them a counter offer fast. And that way, I don't have time for other people to come see the same property and to start submitting offers. So by putting them on their heels, they're balls on their court now. So they have to get back to us, and by law, I mean, they have to present all offers to their clients in a timely manner. So by doing so, I'm just pretty much guaranteeing myself that we will get some sort of indication of how the seller feels about the offer. And many times it works out great. Other times, they're just like, we don't want to deal with you. We reject the offer, not even a counter. But I like being aggressive. That's just who I am. So.
And so just so you guys know, again, it's not, you have to make sure your clients understand what it is you're doing, and think about too, if there's multiple offers and they're calling for highest and best at a time that's after your expiration date, you want to make sure you adjust that if your clients want, right? Just have that kind of in there. But I also like that, to me, the impact of this was was after you explained why it's so important to have that pre-approval at the start, right? You're going in, when you write an offer, having all of your ducks in a row to entice the seller to want to do something within that time frame, right? If you guys present an offer, but it doesn't have the pre-approval, you don't include the disclosures already signed by your buyer, sometimes that can slow things down a little bit, right? So having all of your ducks in a row is so important right off the bat. One thing about the pre-approval that I want to highlight to all of you guys, so Zach made a good point. He said it's a non-starter for him to show property without a pre-approval. What you do for one, you must do for all. So if it is your standard that you won't show property without having that pre-approval, make sure you do that for every single buyer. Otherwise, it could be construed as discrimination, right? So just make sure that if that's your line in the sand and your buyers know that's your line in the sand, don't make exceptions on it, because that's when you leave your back door open for some fair housing violations, right? So just make sure you have that on there. Which is another great reason why working with good lenders that you have a great relationship with is important, because that way you can have a conversation. You wrap up this buyer presentation, and then your lenders are prepared and know that, hey, Robin, just so you know, Rachel might call you in the next day because she's working on getting a pre-approval. Like, that communication is so, so key. I do have to say, I love the HomeSnap stuff, but you can customize your InTouch website to look just as good as that, if not better.
Whoa, okay. I don't know about better, okay? I don't know if it gets better than the HomeSnap. I think the HomeSnap is just so clean. And the reason I like it so much is I was comparing it to, because I've even seen other CB InTouches where it is a little more interactive. But the way it looks on like a mobile device, which I've kept track of like all the marketing material that I've ran and showing the statistics, it's like 90% of people are on their smartphones now or tablets. Mm-hmm. So having that, like the way it runs so smoothly, and the fact that they could just go into HomeSnap afterwards as a reference point then for all of our conversations we've had for any kind of CMA, or whether it's a specific listing that we're viewing, it just makes everything correlate in such a smooth way, and that's why I like it so much. So
listen, I'm not hating on HomeSnap. I love HomeSnap. Okay, I was HomeSnap Pro when I was selling, but just remember, you guys, you need to have both up and running at a high level and customized, because when someone is on a desktop and they are Googling, that CB InTouch will come up. And if it's not customized and it doesn't look right and tight, they're going to notice that, right? And people will pass over it. So I'm not saying you have to do one or the other. I'm saying have both really well designed and operate both, because I agree HomeSnap is great. Your clients can search on that app similarly to a Redfin or Zillow app, except they're tied to you, not to 500 other realtors. So there's a lot to be said for HomeSnap, and MRED runs classes on HomeSnap quite frequently, but we're also we don't have another one scheduled for February, but we'll get some on the calendar for March, April, May moving on, because I know Nakia and I are always really invested in bringing MLS to you guys. So if you're not as familiar yet, that'll be coming. And I think it's good I loved your wants versus needs, ranking of importance, right? So there's an adage, hi Nakia, that buyers are liars. I don't really like that. I think that's a little unfair. Some buyers are liars, but so are people, right? I think it is a lot of times buyers don't always know what it is that they want until they start seeing some things. But getting it out of the way at the start of what's most important, because they might need to compromise. To Zach's point, it's like, well, I want laundry unit, I want a parking spot, I need. And then they start seeing things in their price range. That's when they start realizing, okay, I could compromise on, these two things. But having that conversation up front just helps when you end up, when Zach has to say to them, in your price range, you guys are going to have to give up a few things, right? But he's already had that conversation at the start. So that was really nice. I liked that a lot. I'm just scrolling through all of our comments for you to be able to look like as well. I liked how you explained what the process is of submitting an offer and what you're going to be doing for them in that, right? Again, showing that value, make sure that the buyers understand they're hiring you, right? And as we talk about in the next one, when you talked about for sale by owners, they're hiring you. 95% of the time, someone else is actually going to pay you for the fact that you're hired by them. 5% of the time, it's going to be a 50-50, right? If you fall in love with a for sale by owner, I'm going to do everything I can to negotiate with that seller to ensure I'm compensated. If you fall in love with something and they're not going to compensate me, this is what I expect to be made. And I liked how you explained that, right? Like, my services do cost money. This is like the expectation. This is why I'm worth that. Don't worry though, 95% of the time, you guys aren't going to have to pay for it, right? But that 5%, I want to make sure we know up front, and not where I'm putting pressure on them right before a showing is scheduled, right? To make sure that they know what the option is. Curtis, you put in a bunch of comments towards the end. Do you want to highlight on some of yours? You're muted.
I've been
I'm sure he was like spitting fire right there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you started from the top and came down. I'll start from the bottom and go up. Love that you said you do your very best. I thought that was very passionate. Overall, in presentation, you came off as very, very genuine with a spark of humor to it, but still professional. So I believed everything that you said, and yet it was entertaining. You didn't lose me. I still followed along. So I kind of think, like, overall for the presentation, it was exceptionally well done. Your glossary is your Bible. I think once you get through the terms that everybody understands, you're halfway through the war, and everybody is kind of understanding, and everybody's on the same even playing field. I wrote humor is important. Best of Mankind, the form that I could tell what things were your favorite in your presentation because you hit them. The buyer's form, you hit that so hard that I could tell that was very, very important to you. And when you said you were going to do it for all your buyers, I believed you. You said working with other agents, finding out the information from the other side. I always think, everybody always says real estate is a relationship building business. It is with our clients, but people don't turn the coin around and say our business is also relationship building with other agents. You might do a deal with that one buyer one time, but you are going to cross that other agent several times throughout your career. So when you build a relationship, you're building it with your clients and other agents. It's a very small world out there, and you want people to remember, like, Zach is really a great guy. He was honest, he was genuine, he was forthcoming. I believed everything that came out of his mouth, that sort of thing. It goes a long, long way. Nice idea. Oh, recording yourself. I love that you record your presentation and then watched it.
I accidentally, because I was running around earlier this morning dealing with some stuff for our group, and so I was asking Rachel, I'm like, how do I record this in case I can't make it? Because I didn't want like a cop out for not doing this presentation. So I ended up recording it. I didn't do the screen share. So I'm like looking back, I'm like, okay, I gotta send this to Rachel now. And I look at it, it's just the audio clip, and I'm just like looking at my webcam, and it's just like the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my life. But I was listening to it as like a point of reference and kind of like making notes, because especially when I'm not like visually seeing someone, I kind of get nervous because I'm like, well, who's watching me kind of thing. Like, it's very unconventional.
We all are watching you.
So I'm like speeding up sometimes, or like, kind of getting stuck on some things. So that's why I was doing it earlier, is just kind of like a point of reference.
Well, and that's why we record these. So like each and every one of you guys always should like star this your version, right? Your new to the business peer group that you own and script through, because now Zach is going to have the opportunity to rewatch this again, this time with your visuals. And it just helps each and every one of you guys get that much stronger at doing this. And so whether it's your turn to present or not, that's one thing I really recommend. And I love Teams for that reason, right? Because Teams, just have a Teams with yourself, okay? And share your screen and record it and rewatch that for you, right? That's going to be really important. And if you really want, I'm sure each and every one of your parents or cousins or nieces or nephews would happily be the person on the other side of that Teams, right? Just to like watch you do it virtually and give you feedback.
Yeah, yeah. There's also Loom, but I won't go into that. LOOM. You could do a PowerPoint presentation and use Loom, and it will put your face in the top right corner, and you can present and watch yourself all at the same time and record it. And then you send it to your client as a link, and it's you explaining it to your client, and they're getting the visual of seeing your smiling little face all at the same time.
That's
LOOM. You guys can customize your CB website. Exclusive look. I could tell that you really stress the exclusive look. A huge traction, buyers getting to see something before everybody else does. Like I say, I could see you like your eyes lit up when it came to your favorite things, and that's huge because people will they'll realize that that's important to you. And a lot of it was prep was huge, getting it done ahead of time. That was nice. Meaning like the pre-approval letter, you're saying get your ducks lined up in order, your prep and setting up expectations. But I don't want to take up a whole lot more time, but I thought you did a really, really good job.
A+ for Zach. A+ for
Appreciate
Zach,
it.
guys.
I haven't gotten an A+ in school in a long time.
You're
Good.
welcome for that.
Thank you, Curtis.
So Zach did a great job. He started us off real hard. Who wants to volunteer to do theirs next week? And you can either do it the way Zach did it, which was kind of explained to us as like his peers, how he presents it, or you can actually legit pretend that we are the buyer and talk to us like a buyer and explain stuff. So do we have a volunteer for next week? Are we going to have to volunteer someone? I think we might.
Nakia?
Hey, you guys, I'm on 2 meetings. What do you guys want me to do?
He wants volunteering you to do your buyer presentation next week.
So I'll do it right now.
Ooh, Maria Munoz coming in hot, volunteering George to do it. George, will you do it? I see you're on the call. Can you hear me, George?
Hey, Rachel, yes, when next week?
What next week, 1 o'clock? This new to the business peer group. We meet every week, 1 o'clock.
Sure.
You want to do your buyer presentation?
Sure, no problem at all.
Perfect. Thank you. Maria coming in hot as the team lead, volunteering her team members. Way to go. But see, she's here supporting. So that's really what matters. That's all that matters. So awesome. And George, if you have any questions in the next week while you're prepping yours, please reach out to Curtis or myself and we'll certainly help. And also you can reach out to Zach and ask him questions too. So
Most definitely, will do.
Awesome. Awesome. So real quick, with the 15 minutes we have left, one of the things Curtis and I kind of wanted to go through is we've heard from some of you guys that the contract classes are phenomenal. When we kind of go through and show you guys things, it's great. But real life, fake real life examples would help and go a long way for helping you guys really understand the importance of the contract blanks that you need to fill out and how to fill them out. So that's one of the things that we wanted to go through today. So this is going to be our example for you guys. And we only have 15 minutes, so we're going to kind of ask you guys to give us, I'm going to fill out the contract live for you guys, but I want you guys to kind of answer the questions of what should be put in that. And I'm going to put in the chat exactly what we're looking for. So Curtis, our good old friend Curtis Hunt, is going to be the buyer. We're also going to add a little twist. He has to sell to buy. Okay. We're going to be putting 15% down. I'm going to put these notes in here right now so you guys can help with that. He's going to be paying $450,000 for, what did we say, 415 Margate or 917 Margate, which is a real listing that's on right now, you guys. Looks really cool. Highly recommend taking a look at it. He's going to be asking for $5,000 in a closing cost credit. He's going to do 1,000 initial EM with 10,000 total EM, okay? And he's going to be asking for a $550 home warranty because he knows that if you partner with American Home Shield, which is our home warranty company that we partner with, and you're buying a condo, the best plan on that is only $550. So he knows that in advance because he had a great buyer's agent who explained that to him. That would be another thing, Zach, to include in your that. So maybe I'll make it an A-, instead of an A+. Just teasing. And what he is selling is 655 Irving Park, unit 5302. And we are live on the market, but not under contract yet. We just went on today. Okay, so you guys all have those rules in there in the chat. I'm going to share my screen. I'm in Dotloop right now, and I pulled up already the 7.0 contract so that we can kind of work through this together. I'm not going to pre-add Curtis like you would typically do because, again, I want to be cognizant of your time. But Curtis is the buyer's name, right? So that's kind of the given. Oh, look, Curtis, you're already like in mine already. So there you go. So in real estate, in paragraph 2, someone unmute and tell me, what am I putting in there? Don't be shy. I can't see you guys anymore, so.
This is the easy part, folks.
The address of the property is fine.
There you go. The address of the property. I love it. And we're in Chicago. I already forgot what zip code that is, so we're going to pretend I didn't do that. Okay. This one I forgot to tell you guys does have a parking spot. It's outside. It's off alley.
PIN
Going
number. Where's the PIN number?
I didn't copy and paste it, Curtis.
That's okay. I'm just curious. I'm just asking. Where's everybody going to find the PIN number?
Where do you guys find the PIN number? That's a good point.
On the MLS listing sheet.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
listing sheet.
Or in the remarks.
There you go.
Yeah.
And if I'm buying 217 West Margate Unit 2W, I'm doing my PIN number, but then what am I checking off here?
Single family attached.
Good job. Thanks, Anastasia. Going down to the fixtures and personal property. So where do you find these to check off on?
Listing description, but you can also just find it when you're actually going there in person, right? A lot of people forget to put a lot of this stuff, at least by my personal experience. So actually documenting everything when you see it in person, especially if they're most likely to pursue this place and write an offer, it's good to just take pictures on the side, ask the agent for permission, just so you have a visualization of everything that might not have been listed.
Perfect. That's a great. And the photos usually in the MLS help a lot, but some things you can't tell from photos. Garbage disposal, trash compactor, right? Is there a water heater with the unit or is it through the building? These are all things that you want to ask. And to Zach's point, a lot of realtors are going to be lazier than you guys are. So you really want to make sure you fill this out, because if it's not marked here, like let's say it's not central air conditioning. Let's say that I'm actually getting window air conditioning. Okay. And let's say there's 4 that come with the unit. Okay. I see 4 in the windows. They say they're coming through, but I don't mark this off and the seller walks out with them, right before closing. It's going to be a lot harder to get a credit to replace those. So that's the other pro tip. If there's window air conditioners in particular, put the number in there. Don't just exit out that it comes, put literally what the number is, right? If it's a single family home and there's 2 refrigerators and both are coming with, put 2 refrigerators in there. Okay, so those are some good things. Good point on that. Always mark off the light fixtures. I think a lot of times as realtors, right, we're like, well, that comes with. Who's really going to unscrew it? Believe me, if you can do it, some people think to do it. So make sure you X all those off. What's the next thing I have to fill out on this, given the clues we gave you guys?
You can also include the no added value additions. That'd be really the next line in.
Right.
So that's really contingent on whatever they have there that might be of significance to your buyer in terms of what they would like to retain. And
Like, let's say they're leaving the kitchen island, right? That's not built in. Let's say it's like one of those carts and they're leaving it there, something like that.
I would like to stress, if you ask for anything that the appraiser is going to have a hard time finding a dollar value for, you might want to put in one of Zach's addendums or riders, since he's so popular with the riders. Meaning, like, if you are going to ask for the grand piano, the appraiser doesn't know what a grand piano is worth, so he does not want to see that on the contract. That is going to be a rider or an addendum that the attorneys will put together later. Everybody follow what I mean by that? Okay.
Am I checking this box or no?
Yes.
Good job. And then we'll have to fill in the value later. All right, guys, what's my purchase price? What am I offering? It's in the chat.
450.
John,
wait, wasn't that asking price?
that's also the price we're giving.
What?
We're
No
giving
hardball?
full price. There's multiple offers already. It's fine. What do I fill in A? Paragraph A, paragraph 4, subparagraph A, pardon me.
5,000.
Nice.
What does this
Good.
mean the seller's gonna net? Bonus round.
Well, it's gonna,
Think about it.
We're offering 450. We're giving a $5,000 credit. What are we going to net? What's our seller going to net?
5.
That's not factoring in everything else.
445 is what I heard, right?
Yes.
Good job. How am I gonna fill out this earnest money blanks?
1,000.
For the initial, good job. And what am I gonna put here? How many days, business days after acceptance?
Phase of
I didn't put that in the chat, so,
Oh,
Zach's got up 2 fingers.
okay. Okay, I prefer 1, because if I'm the seller, I want that right away, but I'll give you 2. I'll give you 2. Additional earnest money of, what am I gonna put here? Think carefully about what we wrote in the chat.
9,000.
9,000.
Nice job. Nice job.
And when am I gonna turn that in?
24 hours.
After the inspection is complete.
Right. So in Dotloop, you guys know you have to kind of bake in, like actually pick a date here. So you're gonna give yourself some time and maybe put in, let's see, if we got accepted if playing by Zach's rules, and I'm given a 24-hour, they're gonna have to accept or decline by the 30th. Most likely, then we have all of the first week to do the inspection, right? Because how many business days do you have to do the inspection if you don't ask for an extension?
5.
Right.
5.
So I typically like to do 2 business days after inspection and attorney review. So I'm going to put it on Wednesday, the 10th, which gives us, Monday and Tuesday to make sure that our attorney for the buyer, right, has the inspection report we've gone through, and we're going to start negotiating and going through there.
Nice.
What do I check off in this line?
Who holds earnest money?
Was it specified on the listing sheet?
That's okay. You don't have to look. It's a
Okay.
company that would hold it. So,
The one that has the listing?
yep, unless specifically noted, right? And if it's specifically noted that the listing company is not going to hold it, who's going to hold it?
Title company
Sometimes, but
Attorney.
just so you
or
guys know,
attorney.
we will also hold, right? And if they're okay with it, and if they say, will Coldwell Banker hold it? Yes, the answer is yes, we will hold it. Just so you guys know, we will do that.
So I'm sorry. So if, when do you check the last box is otherwise agreed upon?
Where the earnest money is being held. So, as otherwise agreed upon. So if the listing brokerage, the seller's brokerage has decided they're not holding earnest money, they want Chicago Title to hold it or the attorneys to hold it, that's when you would click as otherwise agreed upon by the parties for the escrowee.
Okay, and then if Coldwell Banker's going to hold it, do they have to agree upon it?
Yeah, you're gonna have to ask. We can't just assume. You have to ask, like, well, we can hold it if you'd like, and then you would check off buyer's brokerage.
Okay. Thank you.
It would be in the MLS about, who holds earnest money. And if they
Each
say
of
that
them.
if they don't hold it, then you have to go another layer. Did that
Okay.
help, Rhonda? Okay.
I realize I didn't give you guys a closing date, but let's think about this. I know that I still have to sell my place and it's on the market, but it's not under contract yet. This is also a condo, which means that my lender is going to have to review condo documents. What's probably a safe date range do you guys think I should put in for my closing?
60 days,
60 days.
60.
Okay, let's put it into the beginning of March, March 10th. Does that feel good to everybody? Gives me the full month of February and into March, or should I do it the week of the 15th?
Yep, 17th.
17th it is?
Couldn't you always just put, I know it's not as attractive when you're presenting it, but a later one, because closing can, be done before the timeline, right? It's not like you have to wait until the day. So technically, if you wanted to be on, err on the side of caution, and then you could say, well, we can expedite this, and it's really just contingent then on the sale of the property.
You can, but just keep in mind that if I put April 1 and I go to the seller and I say, hey guys, actually I can close March 10th, they have the right to say, no, we want April 1. You know what I'm saying? So the seller does have the right to be like, no, we're not going to move it up. So that being said, to Zach's point and in Curtis's point, make nice with the other realtor, if you're putting in that safety net and giving time, but your buyer could potentially close sooner, make sure you just mention that to the listing agent. Just like, hey, listen, this is what we're putting in. My buyer might be able to close sooner. We could cross that bridge when we come to it, but would that be okay with your seller? Just so you have like some understanding. Okay, now the financing. This is the fun part, you guys. So look at what we wrote in there and let's go checkbox by checkbox. What am I gonna check in these?
Fixed rate,
Okay,
conventional.
okay. What am I putting in here?
15%.
Nope.
Wait.
I'm putting 15% down, but I'm getting a loan for
85.
85.
good job. Don't feel bad, Zach. Literally, when I was like new, I would do that all the time. I'd be like, oh, I'm putting 20% in there. And then it looks like you're financing only 20%, right? So make sure that you guys always subtract whatever they're putting down.
Rachel,
Go ahead.
I have a question. Is it conventional if it's less than 20% down?
It will still be. So the conventional is determined on the loan product. And I see Robin Barron, who's one of our GRA, on the line. So their pre-approval will let you know if it's
Okay.
conventional, if it's a VA, if it's an FHA or a specialty loan product. But yes, you can do that. Okay, so who knows, and we don't have to put an exact number here because we obviously don't know, but let's say my pre-approval said that I was pre-approved at a 3.1% interest rate. What should I put in this box?
Is it for conventional? Is it
3.5.
Yeah, 3.5 sounds good. Especially if it's a later closing too. Just making sure that, the rate's not going to fluctuate. Anything can happen, I guess, knowing what's happened in the last year, but wiggle room.
Can anybody explain why that they're going to give it a little juice on top of that? Why did you do that, Zach? If it's 3.1 today, why are you going to write it for 3.5?
Because it's essentially a ceiling for it, right?
Yep.
So if the market just goes crazy all of a sudden and interest rates shoot up to 5%, it changes the complete outlook of the deal for the client, right? They might want to go for a cheaper home now that they know that the interest rate's higher. They might not even want to sell their home right now. They might want to keep it, wait for the market to dip for interest rates.
Yep, good
There you
explanation.
go. How many years am I doing this for? Most likely.
30.
30.
Yep.
30.
What am I putting in this blank? I'm gonna, there you go, yeah. What am I gonna put in this blank with discount points? Anybody?
0.
What do you think? What do you think? Anastasia?
I out to just NA if it's not applicable. I don't know.
Probably not. I didn't say I was doing that. Do you know what discount points are?
You're asking me?
Yeah, but Robin, are you
Yes.
there? I don't know if you're on another meeting or not, because I don't see your camera on.
I'm here. No, I'm here.
Can you explain real quick what discount points are on a loan?
Sure. It's basically prepaid interest. So when we price a loan, we price it at par. And if my par is say 101.5 and I pull up a price and the rate that I'm selecting is at 101.6, I give that extra 10 basis points back to the buyer. If it's lower, let's say it's 101.4, somebody has to pay those 10 basis points. So that could be part of a point. We're one of the few areas in the country that don't quote points and origination fees. And they really are two separate things, but both are interchangeable when we talk because it's 1% of the loan amount. So here, you're not going to see it very often, unless it's maybe a relocation buyer. But if somebody is looking at something on one of the online lenders, it's assumed, like if you go to the store and buy a couch and a couch is $2,000, you know darn well when you check out that you're going to pay $2,400 or $2,500 for it. It's not $2,000. Well, that's the assumption with most other parts of the country. You assume that you're paying a point to get that loan as part of the closing costs. We just don't see it that much here.
Perfect. See, so NA was right, Anastasia. Good job. Scrolling through this, I know we're only on page 2 of 13, but we can kind of go through all this. I love to point out 8. I feel like a lot of realtors leave this off, right? Zach, what are the ones that you should always have marked as has, no matter what you see from the seller?
They're at a bare minimum, the first one, Illinois residential real property disclosure. If you don't have that, I mean, I don't know what you're doing. As far as the lead goes, that's all contingent on 1978, right? Whether or not it's been built before or after. On testing guidelines, a lot of this really is contingent then on the property disclosure form, because if any of them are written as yes, then you would have to provide the pamphlets, or the 1978 and pre would be an immediate for the lead-based pamphlet.
So you're like 92% correct. So what I was trying to get you to say is that we do always need to, as realtors, give our buyers the EPA pamphlet, Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home, which is already in dotloop for you guys. You can do it virtually. We also need to explain to them what radon is, right? So these should always be marked yes, no matter what, because the reason being is I need to explain what my client lead and radon is before we even pick a property, so that they know what it means when we see a property from 1978 and older, right? Or when we see a property floor 2 and down, right? The other ones are dependent on what you're receiving from the listing agent, right? Do they have the real prop, the lead disclosure, and the radon disclosure already uploaded into MLS, and I've been able to show it to my clients before or not? Those are going to be what you look for there. Okay, proration.
Rachel, can we go back to Section 8 for a second? I'm in a situation where they have signed the disclosure, but they have not filled it out.
Who hasn't filled it out?
The seller.
So it's not really a disclosure, right? Because they haven't put anything in it. So I would ask the listing agent, do you have a disclosure that's actually complete? Because if they haven't filled it out, that means they're not disclosing anything, right? Good or bad yet.
Right, but I figured the lawyer would pick it up in attorney review.
So on things that we have control over, it's best to, go ahead, Nikki. I saw you were about to unmute. If you want.
Yeah, this is my area of expertise. Yeah, Wanda, you'll definitely want to push back on that listing broker, because technically you don't have, your buyer could walk away. You're supposed to have that real property disclosure within 3 business days. Doesn't happen, your buyer probably wants the property. I'm sorry.
3 business days of them countersigning the offer?
When it was fully executed. So the clock always starts ticking with the seller's signature.
Okay, got it.
And a
Thank you.
disclosure doesn't really mean anything if it's not filled out, right, Nakia? So if I sign a disclosure, but I haven't checked any boxes, then it's not really an executed disclosure because I'm not disclosing anything, right? Even if all the boxes are no, but at least then the seller is acknowledging, I don't have any knowledge of these latent defects. I don't have any knowledge of lead. I don't have any knowledge of radon, right? That's the bare minimum. Okay, going down to prorations. I know we're a little bit over time, so if you guys have to jump off, that's okay. But I don't want to, I kind of want to get through it for you guys. So in prorations, what do we typically put in subparagraph A here?
Attorney.
You just write in attorney?
I put attorney. I let them deal with it. I want them to get more involved. And also, I mean, it is one of those things too, having them negotiate it down, I've just found to be better. But that's just me. That's what I was told when I first got into the business, and I haven't veered away from that.
Okay. So I typically, like Emma put in here 110. So I usually side with that, knowing full well that this is the number, like Zach mentioned, this is like one of the big things that attorneys do look to renegotiate, whether they negotiate down to 105 or they actually go up because the attorney might know that that area in particular is up for reassessment and might go up by 35%, right? So I'm going to maybe put 135 in there. I realize I didn't tell you guys what the HOAs are, but let's assume that they're in for $329 a month, right? What you put in. And then Master Umbrella Association fees. This is going to be mentioned in the agent remarks more than likely, but you can also ask the agent ahead of time. Some things to look out for, like there's a couple complexes in Chicago that are high rises, but then they also have townhouses. Okay, so I've actually sold in one of those before downtown where it's my client bought in a high rise, but in the same master association, there was also 80 townhouses. So the townhouses have their own HOA dues because that's going to be a little bit different, right? And then the condos have their own HOA dues. But then there was an umbrella association, a master association that handled things like snow removal, pavements, and things like that, right? So that is what to kind of look for. But most of the time, a good agent is going to disclose that in the agent remarks and in the MLS sheet. But if you have questions about it, make sure you ask before you fill out the contract, right? And we've got our attorney review. Nothing to fill out here, but encourage you guys to read this because your buyers will probably ask questions, right? I'm not going to waive my inspection because I think that's super important. I want to do it. This is going to explain to my buyer what the inspection is for. Homeowner's insurance, flood insurance.
Rachel, if I was buying as is, would I waive my inspection?
I would not. No, sir.
I would not. Would anybody?
No.
And if not, why? I'm multiple offer. I want to make my offer as strong as possible. So I'm going to write it as is, but I'm still going to do my inspection because that is my out. If I find anything structural or safety, I am still going to be able to get my buyer out of the deal. Everybody kind of understand the thought process behind there?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Curtis, I do understand the thought process, but my question is, it's a condo. It's a multi-unit, multi-floor behemoth of a building. Would you still do an inspection?
Yep. 10 out of 10 every time. Ultimately, you guys, you all know, and we all know, that's the buyer's decision. Your job is to explain to them the implications, right? So listen, Mr. Buyer, if we waive the inspection, that means you have no right to bring in a professional inspector prior to owning the property. And once you are the owner of that property, if you discover, you know, all the appliances aren't in working order and XYZ is broken, there's nothing you can go back to the seller and ask.
You are making one of the biggest purchases of your life, and you don't want to spend $375 to make sure that it is in safety and structural. There's really not an argument not to do an inspection. I can't think of one. Miss Nakia?
I guess.
She's like, no, I'm gonna always do that inspection.
You're always going to recommend, and if your buyer insists that they do not want to, you're going to request that in writing. And I believe Chicago Association of Realtors may have a waiver of inspection. This again, $300, $400, $600 is a protection for them long-term. And you really want to make sure that you have in writing that you strongly encourage that buyer to move forward with a home inspection.
I can't imagine anyone foregoing a home inspection. That's wow.
In my 16-year career, I believe I've had 2.
Wow. All right.
Okay, moving on. And actually, Curtis, I do have to, I had a 2 o'clock, which is now 2:10. So we're gonna, do you mind, well, you probably don't have yours up to be able to.
You know, I don't, but this was, did everybody find this valuable? Because I think we should just do this again. Is everybody good going through the contracts?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Does it help that there's like an example that we're giving you guys, not just telling you what each blank is?
Yeah, I would actually love to host this.
Of course. Yes, ma'am.
There's a time in the next couple weeks that the group might be interested in an hour. I would love to walk through writing the contracts with you guys.
It's a great way to personalize it, and we can talk through it, and that way everybody's got kind of a not only what we're doing, why we're doing it. I think it's huge.
Awesome. So actually, Nakia, if you'd like to own next week, next Friday.
You're muted, my dear.
She's looking at her calendar, I think.
Oh.
I'm checking my schedule because you know I've been on 3 meetings during this hour.
Wow.
What time? 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock, yeah.
Yes, but this is a hard stop at 2, you guys. So.
Okay, perfect. So next
I'll
week,
hear from the group though. Is this something that you guys want?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just have you guys.
we're getting a lot of yeses in the comments, in the chat.
Yeah.
So
Yes, you already know the answer, Nakia. Come on.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, I will commit to being on one screen from 1 to 2 p.m. next Friday, the 5th.
perfect. And actually, maybe we'll have you do it at the start too, just to make sure we can get it all the way through the 7.0. And then who do we have? George, you'll wrap us up with the buyer presentation at the end. So that way we make sure that we cover all the bases.
So I'm going to ask you guys to do a couple of things. Have your devices ready. This is an interactive hour or half hour because I want to make sure we have enough time for our speaker.
Yeah, great. Love it.
Perfect. All right. Well, we are going to wrap up this session because I know we're almost 13 minutes over. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. This recording will be in the Friday